So I wanted to define the categories a little bit differently rather than just like hot seat, this or that. I wanted to talk about pressure, and I wanted to pinpoint the spot on the schedule where I think the pressure is going to be at its highest for each one of these coaches I'm going to talk about today. So let's first start by defining these categories that I want to throw out and kind of label with today. Here they are. Just happy you're here. We like you, but trying to be patient. Is this going to work? And it's time. So those are our 5 categories that we're going to throw some of these coaches in. And then again, I wanted to talk about the specific spot on the schedule where I think that this pressure is going to be at its maximum. And in particular with what a win or a loss in that spot, in that game, would mean for the rest of the schedule and how we view these coaches, their programs, their tenures, what the narrative would be like surrounding them. So this will be a fun little thought experiment as we roll along in the offseason. Let's start down in Tuscaloosa at Alabama with Kalen DeBoer going into his second year at Alabama. And I think where we fall here, knowing the impatience of that fan base, is that they're trying to be patient. So at this point, the fan base right now just trying to be patient with Kalen DeBoer. We want to see what this guy has. Year 2 of DeBoer. Year 1 was, let's face it, a little underwhelming for Kalen DeBoer. They're 9-4. First time not winning 10 games since 2007. That was obviously Nick Saban's first year. Like, they're not going to sit around and like wait for these 8-win and 9-win seasons. So trying to be patient, but they saw some things. He obviously has been great everywhere that he's been as a head coach, in particular making the national championship game with Washington right before he got down to Tuscaloosa. He's in place at a place that is expected to win, and not just win, but win big and win at the highest level of college football. Can't miss the playoff, in particular as we, have expansion to 12, and we're going to be moving in 2026 and beyond to 14, possibly 16, or most likely 16, as we've talked about on this show at length. I think that it could get a little uncomfortable for Kalen DeBoer when you look at that schedule. It's not the Georgia game. The Georgia game, to me, is like, it's a coin flip game. And as we've seen, Georgia lost to Alabama, still won the SEC last year. The same has happened, in reverse. So, like, that game is not where the pressure is really sitting. Everybody, even in Tuscaloosa, knows that that's kind of a coin flip game, and in particular going to Athens. They should beat FSU in the opener. I don't think that that's a game that should be too difficult. Even if they lose at Georgia, there's no shame in that. But there's this moment in the schedule where it's like, if they were to lose this game, everything changes. Everything changes. And maybe the patience wears out. Now, I don't know what that means necessarily for his future, but I think that the patience wears out. And that's Tennessee at home, October 18th. That's the moment on the schedule. Home losses, first of all, are not good. And then they would be starting really tough and in a schedule that is more backloaded. Obviously you've got Georgia. So let's just say, like, if you're losing to Tennessee, you probably lost to Georgia. So that would be your second loss. It would be your second loss in the SEC. And then you still have to go to South Carolina and then host LSU. Well, listen now. If you were to just lose to Tennessee, who doesn't have Nico Iamaleava, and now you're about to go play Lenore Sellers and Garrett Nussmeier, I think South Carolina and LSU are both better teams than Tennessee. John Mateer is better than any option that Tennessee has at quarterback. You still have to play Oklahoma. You still have the Iron Bowl. So think about that for a moment. Now, let's just throw out there, like, let's say they lose a close one to Georgia, but then lose a home game to Tennessee. Now, all of a sudden, you would likely have to run the table in order to avoid like a 9-3 finish. And we saw what 9-3 did last year. Even in the SEC, we thought for a lot of years that in a 12-team playoff, a 9-3 team would go to the playoff. And guess what? That didn't happen. So the pressure would go through the roof for Kalen DeBoer. But that's the spot. That Tennessee game at home, he's got to win that game. All right, so the pressure index for Kalen DeBoer, they're trying to be patient, but the patience would wear out real fast if they were to lose that game at home to Tennessee. All right, let's go to up north. Penn State, James Franklin. For James Franklin, It's time. It's time. And everybody around that program knows it. He knows it. His coordinators know it. Even the new one, Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator coming over from Ohio State, he knows it. This is a program that has built itself on such solid footing over the last few years, making it to the national semifinals a year ago, playing for a Big Ten title a year ago. And yet, here's the problem. Penn State, under James Franklin, still doesn't have that win, at least in recent vintage in the last 4 or 5 seasons, against a team that maybe they are similar to or matched up with or even an underdog to. I would call it a matchup game. When talent is equated, what has generally happened is that Penn State has fallen short. They have not won those games against Ohio State or Michigan in previous seasons or Oregon last year. Now, I don't want to scoff at the fact that Penn State has done something that is incredibly difficult to do, which is they do not lose to teams that they should beat. So they're incredibly consistent. So credit to James Franklin, but it's time. It's time. So where on the schedule do we feel that pressure ratchet up? Hosting Oregon. They host Oregon Saturday, September 27th. It's been announced as a whiteout game. You don't even have to kick it at noon, Penn State. You get the whiteout. So not only do you have the home game in this first big matchup of the season where talent is equated, it's a matchup game, but you get the coveted whiteout. One of, if not the best environments in college football. You get a team that is bringing in a new quarterback this year. They don't have the veteran Dylan Gabriel, right? Now, as good as Oregon has been, you would say that talent is equated in this matchup, in particular with all of these older players that Penn State is bringing back. If Penn State loses that game, all anyone is going to be talking about is that James Franklin can't win these games, because that's the slow boiling narrative going into the season. However unfair, whatever it is, it's accurate. But again, they've done incredible things, solid footing, great job. I'm going to have them in the top 3 of the country when we start in the fall. He's got to win that game. If you don't beat Oregon at home in the whiteout, you're like, oh no. Is this going to work? So again, it's time. You don't want to put that on your shoulders in November at the Shoe against Ohio State. Then they would potentially have a Big Ten championship game. If you don't beat Oregon at home, you probably aren't going to beat Ohio State on the road, which means you're probably not going to be in the Big Ten title game, which means that you're going to have to play as a non-bye team in the college football playoff, maybe even have to go on the road. And the goal here is to get to a place that you haven't been before. They did that in some respects last year, but even in the playoffs, remember, they beat SMU and Boise before losing to Notre Dame. So it's time. It's time. And that game, September 27th at home against Oregon, is the spot, and it's the moment for James Franklin and the Nittany Lions. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.